Hi everyone, I'm really excited to have Hannah Joseph with me today. Hannah works at Uppingham as a performance coach, was director of netball, but more importantly is a member of the Loughborough Lightning netball team and the England Roses, just been selected and off to Australia tomorrow, Hannah. So many congratulations for that, and thanks for coming on to talk to us about culture building really at Loughborough Lightning. So thank you. So I
Oh,
think
thanks for having me.
no problem. I think where I'd like to start off, I obviously love my netball, and I've seen a lot of Loughborough play, and I always think there's just such a brilliant atmosphere there. You seem to be really close, and it must be linked to performance because you've won the Super League, is it 3 out of the last 4 years? So what makes the culture at Loughborough so special? And you've been there for 12 years. How has it developed?
Um, yeah, it's definitely changed a lot from when I started. I think netball as a whole has changed so much since I've started in terms of the professionalism. Um, I think that the culture at Loughborough is something that we have huge pride in, and is a massive part of who we are and what we do. And I think probably the start of where the good culture and the winning culture came from was probably when Karen Atkinson joined, which was maybe 9 years ago, and she's left now. But probably combined her with Olivia Murphy, and what they did was kind of the start of actually building a culture. I think before then we probably just played netball, but there wasn't really a huge identity around what it was to play for Loughborough Lightning. I don't think anybody could have picked out some key things that would have described us probably as players or off the court. And I think um, they are very good technical and tactical coaches, and they've played. They've both got nearly up to 100 caps for England. I think Karen's over 100 and lives just below. So their knowledge of netball is amazing. But I think one thing that's so valuable and why they had so much success was probably due to who they were as people. They're fantastic people, and they really care about the people around them, and they want to do a good job. And they put a lot of value on things off the court and making sure that we were good people, we treated each other well. And not only that, I think the way in which they treat people, their players, but also their staff, and the way you see them interact. I think your coach does kind of become the top point of your team. And I think seeing how they were with people, then you end up mimicking some of those behaviors. So I think they really started our culture on how we like care about each other. And then we're very lucky that we've had quite a few players there for a long time. People like Nat Panagari, Beth Cobden, Ella Clark, and even now some of the younger ones have been there for maybe 4 or 5 years. So it's hard to rebuild a new culture every year if you have new players in. So I think part and parcel of having that is having some consistency of players. So then when new players come in, they get on board with what's going on rather than having to start afresh. And I know when I've spoken to players coming in, they've like picked up on that culture straight away and the way we interact with each other.
Yeah, I think that role modeling of behavior is so important, isn't it? And from our world as a director of sport, you have to role model kindness and compassion and looking after your people first. I think, Liv and Karen obviously do that brilliantly, and I've met them a few times. They're just genuine, as you say, lovely people, aren't they? I'll be interested as well.
Yeah, yeah.
We were talking earlier, when Fran Williams left last year, obviously one, a great Roses player, and people were worrying how she could be replaced, and Nicola Smith has come in. So I'd be interested to know how you sort of onboarded Nicola and introduced her to the culture so she became part of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the things that actually I think Karen brought in was making sure you pick the right people. So I know there was one year when we were at Loughborough and we um, maybe it was like at the part where we were growing into like we'd come from not winning very many matches and we were on the way up. And we had like everybody wanted to come and play for Loughborough, which was fantastic, but you have to think about how that's going to work. You can't just take all the players you want to take and then hope it comes together. So I remember she said to me once, like, I'll always pick the right people for the team. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pick the person that gets the most intercepts or that has the best shooting stats. But actually, if you pick the right people who will work together well and work within a team well, then actually that will have the most success. So I actually think we were really lucky with Fran that she was like, she's one of the biggest team people I've ever met. Like, she is super sociable. She wants to be around people. She wants to include people. She wants to have a voice. She wants other people to have a voice. You know, she's gone off to captain the England Roses now a few times, and like her leadership is fantastic. So I think she came in and she slotted in really well. I remember she said to me once, she was like really nervous, and I was like, "You do not look nervous about meeting a new team and mixing with a new team at all. Like, this is what you were born to do. You are so good at it." So I think we knew losing her, like we were going to lose a huge player on the court, but also off the court. Um, and then I would assume this was deliberate from Loughborough, but picking up Nick, who was fantastic at netball, but again is a very similar team person. Like, she likes to be in a team environment. She wasn't shy when she came into sessions at all. She has a voice. She wants to work with people. She wants coaching. Like, so she was actually a very similar person to Fran in that sense. And I don't think it has to be somebody who's super loud at all, but you have to be somebody who's willing to give to the team. And that doesn't necessarily mean with your voice. But I think both of them were people that were like in and wanting to give and also wanted to absorb as much as they could from the environment and from the team.
And I think even what you said there about Fran, the way that you big up a colleague, even if she's leaving, I'm sure you want Fran to be doing brilliantly, in Australia. And we've seen that a little bit. I remember Simone Biles in the Olympics when Andrade won the floor, and she was sort of bowing down to her. And I think that bigging up of each other is, fantastic. Um, so
Yeah.
how does this affect performance, Hannah? The culture. It obviously has. How do you think it has
Mhm.
improved the performance?
Um, I would say, I know a lot of people say like when you're in teams, like they don't need to be your best friends, but there has to be a level of like care and compassion in order to then, when you're on court, potentially have those moments that are gonna be tough together. I think, like, just in terms like, if you're in a really tough match, you need to know the person next to you's got your back. I think if that person's never asked you how you are, how your day is, anything about your family, maybe anything about your job, you're thinking, "I don't know if this person's gonna support me," to be honest. So I think, like, having that team culture and that like, we're really good, I would say, at Loughborough, like, we know what's going on in each other's lives. We'll speak to each other. We've got, students at university, people who are living away from home, people who might be living away from loved ones and things like that. So making sure we invest in that time with each other, I think then means when we get to matches and it's really tough, like we know we've got each other's back because actually we've invested a lot of time and effort into these people and we care about them. And then I think also even not in matches, sometimes in training, in sport, you have to be a bit brutal with each other and you have to be honest. And in the heat of the game, you might need to shout something at someone so something gets done. But you can do that because actually, like we'll have a training session where, you might be doing 5 center passes and someone might shout at you. And then, 30 seconds later, you're going to have a drink and they're going, "Oh, so what are you doing this weekend?" And it's done and it's gone. And that's fine. But if you don't do those other bits, then when you do the shouting at each other on court, it's like, "Oh, does that person not like me? What does this mean about this? What does it mean about this?" But actually, you need to be able to have those conversations, have those frank conversations, which can be very frank on court, but still be able to then come off court and know that that was about netball and that has no impact on the off court side of things.
I think
So I think we're just able to be very.
no, I was just going to say, there's a lot of chat in the sports world about psychological safety, and what you've described there is exactly that, isn't it? I can say whatever I want in a team meeting on court, and you know that it's not personal. It's because I want to make
Mm,
you a better netballer. And I think just
yeah.
reflecting as well on, your family sort of vibe, if you like. I said to you, before we recorded, I remember in the Super League final against Thunder a few years ago when Ella Clark did her knee and was, obviously in agony on court. And Emma Thacker was on the bench, probably thinking that she might sit on the bench for 3.5 quarters and maybe get on for the last as a, depending and would have obviously been very nervous, very worried for Ella, but also now she's got to go and play in a Super League final. And there was Beth Cobden with her arm round her, giving her a big hug, basically saying, "You're going to be all right here." And I just genuinely thought that was wonderful at the time. And I thought, if ever I'm in a team, or someone like Beth or you would be the people I would want with me, because you care, and that's got to be powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, and like I said, I think having those players that have been around for longer, I think we've been in it, we've done it. I think it's definitely people like me and Nat and Ella and Beth, like through our netball journeys, like we've been through a lot, like injuries and everything, basically. So I think we know that we can probably share a lot of like our wisdom and what we've been through and how much people will probably look up to us as well in the team. So making sure we
Yeah.
use that for good as much as we can and show some of those younger ones like how much we believe in them and
Yeah.
what they can put out there.
So obviously, let's finish this by sort of reflecting on how this could be used for directors of sport. So I'm director of sport at a big independent school, or you will be one day, I'm sure. Um, what sort of little tidbits would you say from the culture you've built at Loughborough Lightning that you think can be director of sport can help to build the culture at their school?
Um, I would say probably just to really care and invest in people's lives away from the job. I think most people will be very passionate about their life, whether that's loved ones, families, hobbies, something else they've got going on, I would say, like make sure you have conversations with people about those things. Because I think if people know that you care about them, they'll want to do a really good job for you. And I think one of the biggest things I probably learned is you can't just say you care and then not show it. Like the way you act towards people has so much more meaning than the words that you say, and how you make people feel, they will carry with them. If you say, like, oh, yeah, I care about my staff, and then don't show that ever, then those words will be lost very quickly.
That's great advice for any director of sport. In fact, it's great advice for anyone. So thanks for sharing.
Thank
And again, good luck in Australia. Hope you enjoy it. And
you.
also
Thank
good
you.
for hopefully another Super League victory with Loughborough next year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Bye.